Hello, 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 everyone. Mike Arnold here, co-founder, Pat Trading Partners, along with hurricane-ridden Bob Iacchino, who is not here. Hopefully, he'll be on tomorrow afternoon. For everybody just tuning in to see him. If you're tuning in to see him, then sorry, he's not here. By the way, everybody new here, I'm seeing more and more new faces, or at least some people in the chat more often. Thank you for showing up. And by the way, if you are new here or just trying out the channel and you like what you see, please do consider subscribing, hitting the like button, and ringing the bell. That's all we need to dwell on with that. Howdy, Josh. Good afternoon, Paul. Another close to perfect exit. Well, I'm glad you turned a loss into a gain. I hope you are following your trading plan rules and managing risk. Congratulations on a successful exit. Hello, Gary. Good afternoon, Patrick. Good afternoon, Davey. Hey, Scott. Hopefully you can check on Tesla. We will look at Tesla. Evening, Anissa. And hello to everybody hiding in the background. I sold a covered 375 call expiring Friday. Okay. Could you give me the what symbol? Are you talking the spiders? I mean, remember, if you're citing something specifically with a stock, please put in the stock symbol. Sometimes I can guess, other times I can't. I do not have that level of clairvoyance or whatever it would be. If I did, I probably wouldn't be even bothering with YouTube because I'd own my private island as long as it didn't get hit by a hurricane. But owning a private island seems like a lot of work. It's already exhausting enough in life. All right. Yeah, okay, the spiders. You bought Tesla also, Gary. Okay, hello, hello, hello. Yes, so far Bob is staying safe, although Naples got a pretty decent storm surge. So, where do we sit? We had Fed speaks today. John, you better be kidding. You better be kidding. Don't wear me out. Don't make me sick Sterling on you, who might not. I think Sterling took the day off, but don't make me sick Sterling on you. So we had a lot of Fed speaks, and by the way, we're still not done with the Fed is gonna pivot now. The thing with, gosh, we had the nice little. We were in oversold conditions. We had a nice little rally in the notes, but speaking of people, why are you buying? Well, the Fed's gonna pivot. Why? Because the Bank of England is buying gilts. Okay, so why is the Fed going to pivot? Because they're going to, all these central banks have now got to put pressure on the Fed. The Fed's going to reverse course. They're going to pivot. We got to buy everything. It's still not dead. We're still not dead with the Fed pivot. So we'll probably have another silly rally, which, cycles at the bottom. Nice to be expected. Great for repositioning shorts, but it's the same mantra over and over again. Then people want to know what high risk assets to get into because this could be the bottom and they don't want to miss the bottom. As long as I keep hearing that, it's not a long-term bottom. We had Bostic, we had Bullard, we had Powell's was pre-written out, so there's nothing off the cuff, so it really didn't address anything today. But the other Fed speaks, I forgot which one. They're all blending together, but stressing still the base case for November is 75 basis points and December is 50 basis points. So, anything can happen if we have, the whole thing with the intervention in England was, guess some pensions were going to roll over and have a Lehman moment. Which is, we have, in all these central banks, all this liquidity for years. You know what? And I don't think a lot of these pensions and even banks in this country and other firms, large firms, manage risk appropriately. They all think there's going to be the Fed put still. The funny thing is, if there's no Fed put for a while, we could see some interesting price action. And maybe if we get things against the rope, yeah, the Fed might be forced to pivot, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. So, yeah, I saw you said just kidding. Just making sure JK was just kidding. And please, I don't need any more. We always go up. I just don't need any more of it. Longed S&P at June low. I took every ounce of it to do it, and now I couldn't be happier for now. Again, I would caution on being euphoric on a good trade and destitute on a bad trade. An even keel of emotions and just let the probabilities play out is the best course of action. That's why I don't really celebrate good trades and mourn bad. Well, they're not really bad trades. The only bad trade is a trade where you don't follow your trading plan, or you do something like, I had a gut feeling and I went in with massive risk because I just buy it and then it worked out. That would be a bad trade. Powell do the same thing. Well, Powell wasn't in charge of the Fed in '08. So you can't put anything on Powell. He was still in the Federal Reserve, but he was not in charge of it. Hello, is this sort of is that some sort of QE in the UK? How? Oh yes, they are doing. They are still hiking rates and doing QE now. Yes, it is a form of QE. So they're hiking on the short end and buying the long end. Why? Because things did not manage risk. Pensions were going to blow up, or at least face major margin calls. So they decided to QE it. Yes, it is a form of QE. So yes, and that's there. So you're running QE, hiking rates, running QE, and trying to tame 10% inflation. Good luck with this. Good luck. It's like, going on a diet, stepping on the scale each day, and eating a hot fudge sundae. So, or it's the people who order a Diet Coke with a cheeseburger and fries. Okay, not really getting that. What, the extra calories from the regular Coke, the Diet Coke is going to offset the cheeseburger and fries? So that's what they're doing. It's a cheeseburger. We'll call it the cheeseburger and fries Diet Coke principle. That's where I'd put the what the BOE is doing. That's your first good trade of 2022? I hope you've had more than that. What happens to a pound for now? Well, we have the funny thing is with all this, it's rallying just as the euros rallied. These were oversold. We're going to get a rollover play in the pound again. We'll get another rollover play. It's going to get interesting because what happens if you're trying to prop up the long end of your bond market? Excuse me, long end of your bond market. You're competing. You're still now reinforcing inflation, and then you're hiking. So inflation's going to stay there, counteract some of your hikes. So it's going to get really interesting. We're going to see it. This is the only reason I think the Fed will pivot at some points once we see everything break. But then you're going to have every thing pivoting, and it's going to be another rush to the bottom. Timing is the hard part. We'll take a look at stuff. Watch for return first to the daily rotation zones. So let's take a look for tomorrow. Again, GDP, yes, coming out 7:30. The only thing is if we have first off, if it goes above to 0 or above, going into, which would be very, very strange, going into elections at the beginning of November. That would be a huge revision on the final. Remember, this is Q2. Q2, not Q3. So this is backwards looking. Either the only two things that would shock me would be this gets above to 0 or above, or it's some very big revision downwards, like back below 1% negative. Other than that, it'll be an from my perspective. Interesting. I want to see the quarter over quarter price index, but again, backwards looking. So not as big. Not as following. I'll do glance at jobless claims, initial and continuing. We've already had the R recession indicator based off a percent increase. So I'm on official major recession watch. We got more board speaking right at the open, and then Lane, Mester, and Daly speaking. So just keep that in mind. Pretty much green across, besides Apple, which, with their cutting iPhone 14. Well, actually, they're sort of shifting production to the 14 Pro from the 14. But you had your mega caps. You pretty much had green across the board. Oil with the crude. Crude did trigger that double bottom. Going to the trade. There are some nice trades today. There are some really nice trades. By the way, FOMC, even with them saying 75 is the base case, this bouncing up a little. But it's the banging on the drums is Fed pivot, Fed pivot, Fed pivot. Even, but they're not going to pivot going into November unless something drastically breaks. And then they'd lose all credibility because they've been saying, hey, we're not even cutting next year. And then if they were to do a pivot, especially, then no. You might as well just get rid of, I think you get rid of them anyways. By the way, still negative gamma. The closing, which I want to peek into on a second because the future is still open, but before going up, after the stocks closed, not as strong. Fear and greed back to 19, but I want to see, before we really get out of this potential rally, I want to get it out of extreme fear. But that's a secondary thing. That is secondary. After the close today, there was nothing. Before the open, I will glance in at Bed Bath & Beyond. That's about it. Tomorrow after the close is Micron and Nike. I gotta figure out what is going on with my stinking mouse. I was seeing if it is gonna close. We still got 11 minutes left. Yesterday's high was 37.33. Right now we're trading 37.30. I want to see if we do close above that 37.33 because that would roll into a daily buy. If we don't, what that means to me, from my perspective, is I have to more aggressively raise any stops on longs. This morning I talked about that we got that 4-hour buy. We also got the shake and bake first and second targets virtually hit on there. Okay, so now I'm watching to see where it closes. If we don't have as strong a close, then I want to... Hold on one second. Let me try to reset something. This is driving me absolutely crazy. Let's see if this works a little better. Then I'll have to more aggressively raise stops. The way I look at raising stops right now is using the harmonics. So a more aggressive stop level would be below this breakout area on the horizontal channel, and I'd like it below the 37.5. A little more, the most conservative stop is below the 62.5 on the closing. More conservative is closer to the 50%. That's just what I am looking at this point. So we shall see daily on, or not yet, or reconnect with the daily rotation zone, finally turning up, getting out of oversold condition. Still watching for more overhead. By the way, I am going to be using this again is I'm trying to instruct people on how I like to do things. My first window is between the 50 and the 62.5. All right. If we close above the 62.5, then you know my next target would be the breakdown zone with the 87.5. But then I'll also ratchet up the levels to here. Why? Because the 50% roughly comes in at that prior 87.5% and the breakdown zone. And then I'd be watching for the continued rally on a close above 39.64. Then if you get a close above there, I know my next targets. And I know I can ratchet that up again. That's how I like to do it with target areas and trailing stops. So, now anywhere, my first rollover area is anywhere within this. The rotation zone is where I start watching, and my first key areas is 38.15 on. After we get through to shake and bake in the bottom of the daily rotation zone, then I'm watching closer to that 3800, 38.15. Pullback areas for overnight, major supports coming in about 37.12. Below that, I'll go to 3700, this little support wedge right in here. Below that, that's not good for the breakout clause. So, that's what all I need to dwell on that with. I put on the shake and bake plays for the NASDAQ coming up, tapping that 50, tapping that level we talked about yesterday, the 11,600, and the first target on the shake and bake. So that's where, and again, key area for the pullback, you see the 25% harmonic with the prior breakout area. I like to stop on a more aggressive raising at about 11,000 below 11,436. And that's, remember, I like stops on a closing basis, not on, I wouldn't need a daily close, but at least it'd be a 1 hour close below that. And the major areas are in the 50 to 62.5 for your instruction purposes. So those are also key areas that we're watching for pullbacks. Dow, remember we did not have a great, as great a pattern here. Did not even bother putting up the targets, but there you go. First and second target are hit in that. So we'll leave those up for tomorrow. The key area. The 25 is just above it. I'd use a slightly lower stop than 25, about 29,580 to about 29,500. Personally, Russell, coming right up nearly to the end, pretty much to the end of that clear path move. Remember, here's the target of that clear path move. I don't even need to put shake and bake up there, but that's your target of a clear path move. The little one before this was a breakdown zone, but it gave a little target window. Let me show you right there. This because of such a tight breakdown zone. So those were the targets besides using your shake and bake pattern target. So that's key resistance. Your support coming in, wrong one. Your support on this, I'd be going closer to the 50. Minor support would be just on a pullback 1710. More significant would be 1700. My stop would go above 16, below 1689. DAX, everything rallying today. There was no great buy. DAX did not trigger a daily buy, did trigger a 4-hour buy this earlier today and just rallying up. I'm going to be still watching for rollover plays. DAX could eke out a little more to the upside. My next target is about 12,450. Notes, major reversal. This was a short-term bounce buy. But you got to be tight with the rollover play with reward to risk, which had to be played intraday because based off a daily close, no, it was a no-go. Especially because, yes, there was a 4-hour buy, but based off this close, you had to do it was an intraday break. So I'm watching for a little more follow through and then a potential rollover play, especially with cycles at the bottom. Dollar index, we're finally getting that pullback. I was doing that. Well, I talked about that this morning. This 113 below that. So I am continuing to watch for the bigger pullback. Next target is about 112.20. And if we turn it into a multi-day rally and a multi-day dollar pullback, then my major target is about 111. VIX, huge reversal, outside day on this. Actually, the market, based off this, with only a under 200 basis point rally with that kind of reversal in the VIX, it's still, there's just not a lot of fear out there. Not a lot of fear. So we'll cover that tomorrow morning. Crude, we got the little 4-hour double bottom right here triggering. That was a close above 79.51 on the 4-hour, 79.58. First, second targets, nearly the third target hit. So I'm now watching. Yes, there could be a little more play, but this, we're already into the breakdown zone with the daily rotation zone. I mean, there was a nice draw on crude today. We got this only, I think, again, only 16 oil rigs were shut down. I'll be watching again for another rollover play in crude. Just nothing yet. What else do we sit with before I get to other stocks? Euro. Euro did trigger the double also, which I covered this morning. That did close above the peak, so that's still in play. First key level is this 97.76 area, 98.14, then 98.43. I'm focusing on the first and second targets, especially since the second target is a minor breakdown zone. Right there. Bitcoin, not much there. I know we had a request for Tesla on the rally today, still at that prior 50% harmonic. I'm not reversing these yet. I'm just using the old harmonics. They line up really nicely. If the rally continues, we break above this today's, it's even above today's high, about 289.75, 295.75 is the next target that I'm watching for there. That's about it, and that's also a prior little base right there, so that's the next target for the bullish play. First level support coming in at 283.75 and then 277.75. So those are all the levels I'm utilizing. All right, hello, Amadeus. What levels be on the spiders? What levels? So, for what? You got to give me context with the questions. So, again, let me just, oh, we closed. I want to see, I got to see where we closed. Did not trigger a daily buy. Interesting. Got more aggressively raise up stops. Did not trigger a daily buy on the S&P. Did not trigger a daily buy on the NASDAQ. That's actually quite interesting. All right, let me get back to the spiders. On a continued rally tomorrow, but did the spiders, because they closed earlier, there was not the daily buy there. Yes, no, I mean, if you're going by the hardcore rules, no. Spiders, next target is, I don't know, who did the 375 calls? Where was that? That was Chris Plummer. Well, you still got the gap fill in the way of that target. That could be interesting going into Friday. That could be interesting because you still got the gap fill, and then if you get any pausing action, your calls. Although going into Friday, if it was all close to 375, I'd be covering. I'd be covering at some point. So that's where we stand with that. I'd be watching that 373, your key support. Your key support levels, I'd be utilizing for a trailing stop for me personally. I'd be using this 368 area on any play on the spiders from trailing from a long perspective. So that would be my spider levels, the Qs. The Qs, if you're looking at that 4 hour, interesting enough, the 1 hour did, the 4 hour actually did also. So the Qs did trigger the double bottom. So the next target on the Qs is 283.22. Where was that? NDX. Generally, I just follow the NASDAQ futures. I do not do the analysis on just the cash indices, but you can follow the Qs also. If you're looking at the NAS, it's virtually the same pattern as the Qs. Triggering a double. This confirmed it. That's not your base point. This is the base point. This is the confirmation point. You did close above it. So the targets, 11,622.40, 11,696, 11,771. Based off the cash, the initial stop has to go below 11,287. In Bitcoin, the red line is at the 200 MA. We'll test a 75 to the upside. This is the 200 MA, yes. That is, so are you talking on your short-term harmonics? Which gets interesting because if you're trying to do this, yes, you've stalled out in the key rollover area. So yes, above the 62.5, I would target the 75. You get a close above the 62.5, you could watch for that retest of the high area, especially that 20,117. Have a great evening, Christoph. Is that I was wondering what a dogleg bottom is. A double bottom. No. There is no double. This is just a horrible horizontal channel. And this was a very weak bounce in this so far and did not trigger any buys. So even on a continued rally, I'm just watching for the next rollover play. This is very weak in the SMH, and no, there's no double bottom. If in doubt, just look at the, I mean, you got multiple bottoms on the 1 hour, and if you just look at it, there's your horizontal channel. Hello, Amit. We'll catch the reef. You really like your Netflix, don't you? Oh boy, so many people get stuck trading the same thing. Netflix, By the way, this potential double that never triggered is now a triple. It's actually more of a horizontal channel, but this move up invalidated it. Uh, Thoughts? I don't have any thoughts on Netflix. Nothing's really changed. It's still in this sideways corrective channel. It would, and I'm so for shorter term trading, I mean, just trading this channel. On a breakout, you're still looking. If it can manage a breakout, I'd want a solid close, not just above the candles in there. I'd want that close above 252, and your targets still are roughly 264, and then I'd use 270, 271, 79 at that 50%. Other than that, it's still within this channel. So you could try a front run, I mean, if you wanted, but I keep a tighter stop. Bob is doing fine from the last I heard. Christo, my question, fundamental, not technical. Barclays bark on FTSE down 3%, unlike American banks. I'm thinking the SEC fine had a hand in hurting last night futures. 1.6 billion fines for largest banks. I honestly was not following that today. I'd have to look into it more, Christo. I don't want to comment on something I did not look into. There was too much other stuff going on today. I'm just going to... And overall, I mean, I'm just looking at it from a technical perspective. I'm just, this is just curiosity on my point of view from the last little rally. Well, I mean, it didn't get over. I mean, yeah, it went down, but it's still within a huge trading channel. I'd have to look into that more, Christo. And I did get your spreadsheet. I just have not had a chance to go into it in depth. So I don't. If I don't have an answer to a question, I'm not going to make one up. Lot was mostly up today. It was a covering day from shorts, and I'm not talking short squeeze. I'm talking a covering day, and you just got a across the board rally from major oversold conditions. Although this, yes, I'm still expecting more of a rally, but this closing with the futures, it couldn't even trigger a daily buy. Very interesting. So this is not even though it looks like a pretty powerful day, it's not that powerful. All right, with that, I don't have anything to chat about. This price action, it is tiring. We'll come back tomorrow morning. What are we all? This is Wednesday. We got Thursday. Remember the numbers out at 7:30 tomorrow Central, and I will be on at 8. And hopefully, sure I can check on cost, and then I'm wrapping it up. And hopefully Bob will be on tomorrow afternoon. Costco did no close below that 62.5. Nice little recovery rally. I'd be just watching in this daily rotation zone for a potential rollover top. So my key line, the sand on a closing basis is 465.41. That's pretty easy, and that's on a closing basis. Anywhere up in here, you filled the gap yesterday. Today, they're just. I mean, if you want your short term levels, because I'd be using these for something in the rotation zone. 494.50, and that's pretty close to a decent breakdown area. So 494.50, if you were long, I'd be looking to at least ratchet up a stop, and then your next key level is right in front of 500 if you're long. If you're and my key major line in the sand for the next breakdown play is this 465.41. And I am expecting this to break down again. This is just a recovery rally. Thank you, Amadeus. That's where it did. Thank you very much. Balaji, did you have any more specific question on Costco? Those are the major levels I'd be using, plus the minor if you were trying to catch a bounce move. Overall, I'd just be cautious on the overall next rollover play. It's below the 200. You got a declining rotation zone on the daily, declining rotation zone on the weekly. You only held support at the 62.5. So this would be a bounce and then a rollover. You're welcome, Amit. You are welcome, Balaji. I hope I said your name right. I'm sorry if I ever mispronounce names. I don't mean to. Daniel, you are welcome. With that, I will be back in the chair tomorrow morning, and I will talk to everyone later. I'm going to go walk the dogs now. Bye for now.